Hi guys, and welcome to your daily tarot reading for Wednesday, the 27th of July 2022. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to use the Herbal Tarot today. Let's see what the cards have to say about Wednesday and what energy you'll be working with. So I'm just going to shuffle these a few times. I hope you're having a great week so far. Let's see what Wednesday is all about. So let's have a look. Okay, first card is the Ten of Wands, Prickly Ash Bark. The Three of Swords. And Justice. Okay, the message I'm getting via these two cards is, sometimes you take on a bit more than you know you ought to. It's kind of like, I know I'm swamped. I don't have enough hours in the day to take care of this work situation and take on this extra bit and sort out the family and get all this organized and then run to the dry cleaners. But I feel like I have to do it because maybe some sort of miracle will happen and I'll make time and I'll be able to get it done. I mean, a lot of people operate like that on a day-to-day basis. It's like, I need to put more on my plate than I can manage because that chaos and that anxiety and stress is going to motivate me and get me moving. I mean, that's kind of a whole mindset that isn't particularly helpful, I think. But I think most of us do that once in a while. The cards are saying that if you take this approach, it's not going to miraculously all work out. Instead, you'll be disappointed by the way things land. And this day is much more about balance. So having reasonable expectations will allow you to have a reasonable outcome. Or if you feel like you can manage 5 things on your to-do list, then only put 5 things on there because it's likely to be true and you'll be able to get those 5 things done really nicely. The key thing with the Three of Swords here, which is heartbreak and loss and betrayal, is if you try and wing it or you try and get away with something, this card says that you're very unlikely to get the grace of that on this day. And it's much more likely that things take a lot longer than you planned. And that if anything, it's a better idea to make more time and to give yourself a little bit of breathing room instead of overloading yourself in order to try and get some movement going. It's like if you drink a cup of coffee or 2 cups of coffee to kind of get you started in the morning, that's one thing. But if you take 5 or 6 cups of coffee and then you're an anxious kind of jittery mess, then it's counterproductive because then you don't get anything done. And the things you have to do, they just terrify you. So it's the same thing here. It's moderation and keeping things in some sort of a balance. I mean, some people go to extremes with this and say, oh, you're always 15 minutes late to everything. You must be addicted to drama or chaos because the idea of being late, it fills you with this paranoia and this anxiety. And without that anxiety, you can't function and you've created this whole dynamic around it. I mean, to me, that sounds a little bit over the top. I mean, yes, putting a bit of pressure on yourself can sometimes work like magic and you can get things done that at other times you wouldn't be able to. But this is not one of those days. You're going to be much more productive if you approach things calmly and with a little bit of time where you don't have to rush everything. So just allow yourself that little luxury and don't stress yourself out beyond belief here. Okay, so the Ten of Wands is someone who's super motivated and interested in lots of different areas, but who tries to do too much. And because of that, all of these different areas become a burden and he is slowed down in every area. So a much better idea is to edit and to prioritize and to say, okay, I am motivated, great, let's celebrate that. But instead of trying to solve all of my life problems on this day, I'm going to focus on the 1 or 2 things that are most important to me, and then I know I'm going to do an amazing job. So the Ten of Wands, Prickly Ash Bark. Where's Wands? Burdensome oppression, moving from necessity rather than choice. Right, so you do have a choice in terms of what you're going to look at. don't feel like you're oppressed and you have no options. You actually do. And I think it's oppression that can be brought on the self by saying, I care about so many things that I want to work with all of them. And that's what has made me a bit tired and makes me feel like I'm bogged down. So I don't feel like there's anything or anyone else doing this. So you have a lot of control and the ability to prioritize and say, these are the things that are important, so that's what I'm going to pursue. The Three of Swords is in the element of air, and that has to do with communication, ideas. And the Three of Swords visually is one of the easiest cards to read because we've got a heart that's being skewered by these three swords. So it's heartbreak and betrayal and your feelings getting hurt, ideas that don't really resonate with what you're feeling. So it can be it's this sense of incongruousness, if that's a word, between what you're feeling and what you're seeing. So it's actually quite an interesting image that says, if your heart says one thing, but the real world is telling you something different, then stick with your heart, because you may be lied to, or someone may be pulling the wool over your eyes. Ultimately, the heart, as far as I'm concerned, is a symbol for the intuition, and your intuition doesn't lie to you. But ideas and things that you read, and things that you listen to, that's much more likely to be the source of the lies. What have we got here today? We've got pleurisy root. Okay, so pleurisy root, that doesn't sound very delectable in itself. The most violent assault upon the ego, the final thrust, cardiorespiratory disease, the attack upon the stronghold of feeling and energy, division, rupture, complete severance from the past, attachments and relationships. Okay, so it's bad news in terms of relationships. If you take on all the responsibility for something and you think, oh, okay, if I support this person or if I try and help them in order for this person to like me or to love me, that's going to be a disaster. That's not going to work. It's much more likely that you don't get a thank you at the end of that. And it's even likely that you get an earful saying, oh, you helped me too much. You enabled me. This is why this relationship is now on the rocks. You're to blame. So it's that kind of thing. So an assault on relationships. Assault on the ego can be a good thing because the ego is something that sabotages us all the time and that wants to make us feel oppressed. And sometimes you need to get to this breaking point. What's very clear with ego breaking points in one particular illness is addiction, because addiction often comes from extreme self-will, and then by using, sooner or later you realize that it doesn't work and that the substance, the drugs, the alcohol or whatever, that's become another problem now on top of the ego, the self-will, and something has to give. And that's the thing with these moments of clarity or breaking through the ego. Sometimes things need to be so blatant and negative that you're like, wow, I just have no wiggle room here. Either I'm going to break through this or abstain, or something has to change. This is no longer tolerable. So if you look at it that way, you're able to see beyond your own tendency to oppress yourself, to overload yourself, to engage in relationships which aren't helpful to you. And you can say, enough already, I'm not doing this anymore. This is the final time I've been assaulted. I can't breathe. I feel like rubbish. And I think it's a better way for us to go a separate ways so neither of us are suffering. So if you have a tendency to engage in relationships which are really toxic for you, but you get some sort of payoff, like you don't feel like you're on your own, or it's toxic, but at least I'm not being abandoned. You know, those kind of things. You're like, what am I doing? I'm not going to engage with this anymore. I can see it for what it is. It's making me feel this big with a hat on, and I want to feel normal sized again. Thank you. So you can have a moment of freedom when it comes to toxic relationships and toxic ways of behaving and negative ways of operating in your daily life, i.e. treating yourself. You can identify them, see them for what they are, and have a release, a breakthrough from that. And then finally, Justice. Justice is the 11th card of the Major Arcana, which is about service. So you can be of service to yourself by believing what you're seeing. And it's the cause and effect card. So what you put in, you get out. It's total balance. So you can see the imbalance of your behavior and your relationships in the past. And you can bring balance to that and say, I'm going to operate differently and I'm going to get a different outcome. Plantain. Adjustment, making things right. Correct allotment of time, finances, and attention. So you're able to amend things and correct them and get the balance back into your life, particularly when it comes to life purpose, the way you work, the way you treat yourself, and relationships. If any of those are negative, toxic, unhelpful, you can see what you want to detach from, what you want to remove, and how that then creates a much greater sense of calm and ease in your life. Okay, so number-wise, we've got 11 and 10, that's 21, and 3 is 24. 2 and 4 is 6, and 6 is a temporary opportunity. 13, 24, yeah. Yeah, so this is an opportunity to kind of clear the decks of all these negative influences in your life, to free yourself so you've got breathing room and you've got time and space to say, oh, actually, I'm not hounding myself, nor am I allowing anyone else to hound me. So the opportunity to make life lighter and to lighten the burden. Yeah. Okay, so I hope you have a great day. If you'd like a personal reading with me, please get in touch via my website. It's gregoryscott.com. On the front page, click on Book Your Reading to order your reading with me. And if you like this video, then give it a thumbs up. Please hit subscribe and the little bell next to it and share the video online. Have an amazing day, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.